This is a Sports Catastrophe production.
Hey there, ho there, it's Jeff Cutastrophe welcoming you to another Sports Catastrophe Birthday Boy. And Birthday Boy today is very, very controversial. Depends on your POV. He is now 68 years old, today on August 11th. He is a wrestler. He basically brought the WWE into the mainstream with TV and, of course, with his famous win in 1984 to get the main title, which he held for 4 years consecutively. And he was an icon that WWE liked, but he decided to go into movies. A lot of them were pretty much crap, spectacular. He went to WCW, and then he went back to the WWE and all that. His name is Terry Bollea. Well, yeah, but he is Hulk Hogan, obviously, by the picture. Hogan was a pro wrestler starting in 1977, signed for WWF. Well, World Wrestling Federation at the time, now it's WWE, in 1983. His persona as an All-American ushered the 1980s pro wrestling boom, and he was part of 8 of the first 9 main events at WrestleMania. The only main event he missed was when? I can't remember. Oh yeah, well, WrestleMania 2. He didn't wrestle in the WrestleMania 2 finale. No, WrestleMania 4. He wasn't in the final. He was in Randy Savage's corner against Andre the Giant. Anyway, Hogan won the WWE title 5 times in his first run, and his first reign holds the record for the second longest in company history, behind Bruno Sammartino's streak in the late 60s. He won consecutive Royal Rumbles in 90 and 91. Before the Royal Rumble meant something, like a shot at the WWE champion. Well, he was the champion in 1990. He departed the WWF to sign for WCW in 93, winning the main belt 6 times, and the longest reign in company history. In 96, he changed his persona to be an evil wrestler. Bash at the Beach in 96 was one of the most shocking events ever, as Hulk was supposed to save WCW wrestlers from the New World Order, the outsiders of Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. However, he joined them and hurt Macho Man Savage, and was villainous. And part of WCW headlining the Monday Night Wars. Hogan would come back to the WWE in 2002 after his WCW contract was done, winning the WWE title for a 6th time, which was shocking. He would do that. And then he departed in 2003, got into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2005, and wrestled for many other promotions. Hogan would have an acting career. Yes, Rocky 3 was pretty good. As Fender Lips. But there were other films that weren't good. No Holds Barred, Suburban Commando, Mr. Nanny was always in right guard commercials. He was on TV with Thunder in Paradise, and also Hogan Knows Best. Kind of not the best thing. All that. He was also part of Hulk Hogan's Celebrity Wrestling. So anyway, he actually could have been a pitcher. He was a good pitcher in Little League, and the Reds and Yankees were looking at him, but injury ended his career, so he decided to go into wrestling. He would train in the South, but part of Georgia Championship Wrestling. However, Terry Funk actually introduced Bollea, or Hogan as it is, to Vincent J. McMahon. Not the Vince McMahon we know, but Vince Sr. McMahon wanted to give Bollea the last name Hogan as an Irish name, and wanted him to dye his hair red. Hogan said his hair was is already falling out. Hogan would wrestle his first match in November 1979 in WWF against Harry Valdez. He actually beat Ted DiBiase. Yes, that Ted DiBiase through bear hug and all that. So Hogan would try to get the WWF title from Bob Backlund but failed. He would be feuding with Andre the Giant before WrestleMania 3. People forget that Hulk and Andre the Giant had a rivalry in 1980, and it culminated with a wrestling card at Shea Stadium. And that's when Hulk allegedly slammed Andre the Giant, but he didn't win. Hogan was a villain, and he was paired with classy Freddie Blassie. Hogan would then head off to Japan, to New Japan Pro Wrestling, and Japanese fans would become Ichiban, number one. He would tour the country in Japan and all that. He actually was the first IWGP tournament winner, taking down Antonio Inoki by knockout. Wow, how can you beat up on Antonio Inoki? But Hogan and Inoki actually worked as partners in Japan, winning the MSG Tag League tournament 2 years in a row. Hogan would try in '84 to wrestle Inoki to defend the early IWGP belt after Inoki won to be the number one contender. Hogan lost by countout thanks to Ricky Chozo. Hogan would defend his WWF title when he won in '84 against a pair of Japanese wrestlers. Hogan wanted to film Rocky III, but it was against Vince Sr.'s wishes. Hogan would go to the AWA, earned by Fern Gagne. He was a fill-in. However, the AW fans fell in love with Hogan's presence, and he became a fan favorite. Hogan had a chance to win the AWA belt, but Fern Gagne kind of screwed him over, in a sense. However, after Vince McMahon Jr. bought the company from his father, he wanted the territory to be a nationwide promotion, and he decided to think that Hogan would be the showpiece because of his charisma and name recognition. So he came back to the WWE in '83. Hogan would save Backlund from an assault by the Wild Samoans January 7, 1984. Less than 3 weeks later, on January 23, 1984, Hogan would face the Iron Sheik for the WWF title. Iron Sheik controversially won it from Bob Backlund in '83 after Backlund's cornerman threw in the towel. So the Iron Sheik was looking for it. The storyline was that Hogan would be a last-minute replacement for an injured Bob Backlund. The Iron Sheik did put Hogan in the camel clutch, but two things. Number one, Hogan got out of it, and number two, I know the WWE thankfully has edited it, but I've seen clips of this. But unfortunately, Iron Sheik, when he puts a camel clutch, if you look at his shorts, never mind, I shouldn't really say that. Anyway, Gorilla Monsoon would proclaim Hulkamania is here, and Hulkamania was running wild. Hulk said he did well by training, saying his prayers, and eating his vitamins, and believing in himself. Hogan's ring gear would be the yellow and red color scheme. And Hogan would basically get hurt by the heels, but then come back by hulking up and would basically put a big boot and running leg drop. So anyway, he was renowned. He was part of the first WrestleMania main event in 1985 when he and Mr. T fought Roddy Piper and Paul Orndorff with Cowboy Bob Orton in the heels corner. Hogan was the face of professional wrestling because of a pop culture, like the Rock and Wrestling for MTV. Now, unfortunately, though, before WrestleMania 1, Hulk was in an incident on a HBO show called Hot Properties. He was told to deal with the host Richard Bowser, who later would be in Homicide: Life on the Street. But he he couldn't allow Bowser to be submitted to his signature move because it was the leg boot, the leg drop. So he put him in a chin lock. Unfortunately, he put Bowser in too long, and Bowser just collapsed on the floor, hurting himself. Bowser would get a financial settlement from WWF. But anyway, that could have ruined it. Hogan basically was great. He was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, the only wrestler to be on the front cover. It was part of his own CBS Saturday morning cartoon show, Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling, which was pretty good. The voice of Hulk Hogan was provided by Brad Garrett. And by the way, James Avery, you know Uncle Phil from Fresh Prince, he was the voice of Junkyard Dog. So he was majorly fighting with Roddy Piper. Hulk would make a lot of title defenses in '86, including a famous one against Paul Orndorff in Toronto at the Exhibition Stadium. Hulk in '87 would be in a major storyline as Andre the Giant came back from a year away from the WWF and wanted to challenge Hulk for the WWE title. Of course, Andre got a trophy for being 15 years undefeated, but they gave Hulk a bigger trophy, and Andre seemed to be jealous and all that. So Andre got the match at WrestleMania 3, but Hulk would defend the title against Andre, body slamming him, which was amazing. The body slam heard around the world. Now, people think that Hulk almost could have lost the match in the first few seconds against Andre because he went to slam Andre, but he lost his balance and Andre was on top of him. But no. Hulk would be WWF champion for 4 years / 1,474 days. In front of 33 million viewers on NBC, he would lose the match. He would lose a match in Indianapolis to Andre on the main event. Basically, the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, allegedly in storyline, paid a referee to look like the referee who was in charge of the match. That was Brian Hebner. Dave Hebner, sorry. Earl Hebner, who was actually a twin of Dave, assumed the place. Andre got a belly-to-belly and won the match, despite the fact that Hogan's left shoulder was clearly off the mat. Andre would give the title to DiBiase because of a business deal, but that meant that the title was held up, and WrestleMania 4 had a tournament to decide who would get the title. Andre and Hulk were forced to face each other in the second round of the tournament, which was shocking, all that. Unfortunately, though, they both got disqualified, and Hogan would help Macho Man Randy Savage win the title over DiBiase. Hogan, Savage, and Miss Elizabeth would form a partnership known as the Mega Powers to feud with the Mega Bucks, Andre, Ted DiBiase, and their manager Virgil. Unfortunately, the Mega Powers imploded because of Savage thinking that Hulk had lust for Elizabeth. So they decided to fight each other for the WWE belt. Hogan beat him, and it was amazing. Hogan would keep the WWE title in '89, despite having to deal with someone coming from his movie No Holds Barred, which was a good movie, by the way. You know, Seuss, or Tiny Lister, as he was known as. Basically, Seuss was a terrible wrestler. Hogan would easily beat Seuss in many matches. All that. So Hulk won the 1990 Royal Rumble. Of course, that was before the Royal Rumble. You win the Royal Rumble, you go to the WWE title match. So Hulk would end up losing to the Warrior at WrestleMania 6 in Toronto in a face versus face, title versus title match. Warrior was the Intercontinental Champion, and he beat Hogan, the WWF Champion. So Hulk's title reign was done for. Hulk would be in a few feuds, especially with Earthquake. So Hulk basically won the 91 Royal Rumble, and at WrestleMania 7, he was called upon to take care of Sergeant Slaughter's heel reign as WWE Champion because Slaughter was an Iraqi sympathizer. Of course, this was profiteering off war stuff. So Hogan won the match. He got the WWE title, which he lost to The Undertaker at Survivor Series 91. And then a week later, in a famous pay-per-view, this Tuesday in Texas, he beat Undertaker, but he did cheat. And the WWE title was held up till 92 Royal Rumble when Hulk was eliminated by Sid Justice, who got eliminated by Ric Flair. Unfortunately, Hulk would be in trouble because of Dr. Saharian's selling steroids and all that. Hogan didn't know much about the steroid trial, and there was a lot of scrutiny on him. He returned to the WWF in 93 to help Bruce Beefcake in his feud with Money Inc. and challenge Money Inc. for the tag team belts. Unfortunately, Hogan and Brutus would lose the match due to disqualification. Hogan allegedly had a cut above a black eye when he was fighting for the tag team belt. A lot of people said Randy Savage legitimately beat him up and all that. However, Hulk would take part in the main event of WrestleMania 9 because after Yokozuna shocked Bret Hart by winning thanks to some salt in the eyes, he wanted to help Bret out. Unfortunately, Yokozuna's manager, Mr. Fuji, decided to challenge Hogan to a match. Hogan accepted and beat Yokozuna in 30 seconds. A lot of people were upset with Hulk, especially with the fact that he had maybe backstage politics his way to the WWE belt. And he did call Yokozuna that Jap. Kind of stupid, don't you think? So anyway, Hulk actually had issues because he was facing the IWGP champion Great Muta in a May 1993 wrestling show. He said that the WWE title was a trinket and all that. I think he did it to please the Japanese media, but back in the States, they were not too happy. Hogan would drop the title in June of 93 at King of the Ring to Yokozuna, which was shocking. Allegedly, Hulk did not want to have to face Bret Hart at SummerSlam. It would have been Hulk versus Bret for the title, and Bret would have won it, passing of the torch, all that. So he would go to WCW. Well, with his Thunder in Paradise stuff and all that. So Hogan signed with WCW June 11, 1994. And at Bash at the Beach in August in Orlando, with Shaquille O'Neal being a ring enforcer, Hogan defeated Flair, finally having the fans with the great Hulk Hogan Ric Flair matchup that they wanted to see at WrestleMania 8 in 92, but they didn't like it. Hulk would be a WCW icon who was a babyface. But at Bash at the Beach 96, with the Outsiders facing the WCW loyalties, Hogan appeared to go after Hall and Nash. But, of course, he dropped that leg boot on Randy Savage, and he was heel. It was huge. He changed his red and yellow garb to black and white, and it was hard to believe. A lot of things with WCW. Unfortunately, Hogan had problems. Once Vince Russo came into the WCW, Hogan knew his time would be. Yeah. Anyway. So Hulk was in a work with Vince Russo. Hogan was supposed to face Jeff Jarrett for the WCW Bash at the Beach 2000. Unfortunately, Hulk and Russo had backstage politics, and Jarrett actually laid down, and Hogan got on the microphone and said, "Is this your idea, Russo? That's why the company's in the damn shape it's in, because of bullshit like this." Hogan took the WCW belt, but moments later, Russo came back in the ring and said that this would be the last time Hogan would be in WCW. It's when the public discovered the creative control clause that Hogan had, which meant that Hogan was able to control anything that happened to his own character, and would be able to do so without anyone else telling him no. So Hogan actually filed a defamation of character lawsuit against Russo, which was dismissed. Russo said it was a work, but Hogan said it was a shoot. And that was the last time he was in WCW. He would be part of XWF, trying to bring wrestling back to the forefront and make it like the second best promotion behind WWE. Basically take over for WCW, because there were a lot of WCW wrestlers who went to the XWF. Hogan would only fight one match because the XWF had troubles. And No Way Out in 2002, Hogan came back with Scott Hall and Kevin Nash as a heel that Vince decided to put in to poison his own creation, if you will. Hulk accepted The Rock's challenge at WrestleMania 18 in Toronto to a match. And shockingly enough, even though Hogan was the heel, fans were cheering for both Hogan and The Rock. It was amazing to see an iconic match at WrestleMania 18 like that. Hogan was shocked and all that. However, Hogan would actually face Triple H for the WWF Championship at Backlash, winning it. He was actually the last guy to have the belt for, saying, WWF Championship and not WWE Championship, because of the lawsuit lost to the World Wildlife Foundation. Hogan beat Triple H for the title, which was shocking, but Undertaker beat him for the belt. Hogan, unfortunately, would have a lot of issues to deal with McMahon, because McMahon was kind of jealous in a sense. Hogan lost at No Way Out in 2003 thanks to a heelish referee named Sylvain Grenier, who later became a WWE wrestler. Hulk would actually beat Vince McMahon at WrestleMania 19 in a street fight. And then he would be Mr. America, as in Hogan in disguise, but we all knew who he was. So basically, Hogan was not happy with things. Hogan actually quit WWE due to frustration with the creative team. So yeah, so that's an interesting thing. He went back to the WWE in 2005 to be in the Hall of Fame class. And then he rescued Eugene from the beatings of Hassan and Davari. Hulk was seen trying to help Shawn Michaels and all that. He came out in June 2005 in a match in Anaheim to help Cena and Michaels take care of 3 other wrestlers. I think it was Tomko, Christian, and Chris Jericho. But anyway, HBK would turn on Hogan, and Hogan would face Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania. No, not at WrestleMania, sorry, at SummerSlam, in a match that Shawn Michaels basically threw because they was upset that Shawn was going to lose to Hulk and all that. So that was terrible. That was not a good match. He would return to TNA for 4 years. So Hogan was a TNA guy. But he came back to the WWE in February 2014. Shocking. and he was the host of WrestleMania 30. Unfortunately, he referred the Superdome, where the event was held, as the Silver Dome. It was amazing. Hulk was late. By July 2015, there was a scandal because of his racial stuff during a sex tape. So they basically cut Hogan out of their lives forever. However, he was reinstated in July 2018 after many African Americans actually supported Hogan, like The Rock, Des Robin, Booker T, Kamala, Virgil, Mark Henry, and Big E. So Hulk's back kind of in the WWE in the sense. So good for him. Hogan was known for trying to have pasta mania, which was terrible. His finances were terrible, as he was almost bankrupt in 2011 because of his lavish lifestyle and his costly divorce to Linda. And Hogan actually said that he thought about killing himself. He actually had a gun in his mouth or near his mouth, but Layla Ali, Muhammad Ali's daughter, called him about something, and he stopped what he was doing and thought he needed to make things better. Hogan would be part of Hogan Knows Best, a reality show centered around Hogan, Linda, and their kids. And Hogan seemed to be kind of an overprotective father in a sense, but he had good reason. So, yeah. He also hosted Hulk Hogan Celebrity Championship Wrestling, which had Denny Bonaducci and Dustin Diamond, among others. Part of video games and all that. He's been in WWE things. His filmography was okay. He hasn't been in film since Romeo and Juliet in 2011. Of course, he had legal problems with Richard Belzer. They settled out of court. He testified in the Vince McMahon trial, which people are saying McMahon was doomed because of him selling steroids to wrestlers, and Hogan was supposed to be the prosecution's star witness. But Hogan turned on the prosecution and defended McMahon, but McMahon was still not too pleased with Hogan somehow. And Hogan did say he used anabolic steroids to gain size and weight, but McMahon never sold or ordered him to take it. So Hulk married Linda and having the daughter Brooke and son Nick. Brooke's a couple years younger than I am, and Nick's born in 1990. Unfortunately, there were a lot of problems, as Hulk would have an affair with someone who worked on Brooke Hogan's album. So yeah. After the divorce, he considered committing suicide, but Layla Ali prevented him doing it. Hulk is in a relationship with Jennifer McDaniel, and he's actually Christian somehow. He was saved when he was 14 and accepts Christ as his savior. Wow. Of course, Hulk has health problems because he can't really wrestle anymore. So yeah, Hulk Hogan was basically the best and worst of wrestling personified. He was the best because he brought wrestling into the mainstream in the 1980s, but he was also jeered because of his scandals and the fact that he had his backstage politics, which cost him in the end. So anyway, Hulk Hogan is still an icon. And don't you forget it, brother. What you gonna do when I rip this video all over you? Arrgh. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu.